It's my pleasure today to interview a very dynamic personality. Harriet Green is a global leader in business, a diversity and an inclusion activist as well, one of my favorites. Harriet Green led IBM as the CEO and chairman, Asia-Pacific, and has been named as Fortune's one of the most powerful women internationally. A global executive who has led business transformations on four continents. Prior to IBM, Harriet led the global transformation and rebranding of the leisure travel company Thomas Cook Group as the CEO. Harriet, it's a pleasure to speak with you today. I hope I didn't miss out on anything.
Oh, it's fabulous to see you again, and a real honor to be interviewed and for us to talk about some of the issues that I think are important to a lot of your listeners and those that tune in to speak in.
Absolutely. Harriet, I'd love to know more about your journey. When you began your career many years ago, did you ever imagine that you would be a leader in a male-dominated profession?
I don't think I ever thought about being a leader in something that was male-dominated. I really focused early on and really throughout my career on equipping myself to be really sort of strong and effective, being my own person. So a lot of focus on emotional fitness that we can talk about, because I think that's really important. All of our leadership starts with how we are feeling. A lot of work on resilience and how you become a more resilient leader. And I think that what I knew was that to be successful, I needed to be extremely good at, maybe even better than some of the others doing it.
I completely agree with you. You know, having led IBM Watson, would you like to share some insights on the power of data and how leaders can truly unlock its potential today?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, the whole data is the new air. You know, some people talk about it as oil, but that suggests that there's a finite amount and it's owned by certain people. But, you know, the speed and the enormity of real-time data that is available really requires all of us as individuals, as organizations, as companies, as governments, to have very clear policies around what we're doing with that data. How do we organize the data? How do we secure the data? What is the data that we are creating ourselves that we need to use going forward? So I think that everything, how it is distributed, its real-time elements, and we are creating in the last, couple of years, more data than through the history of all of man and womankind. So thinking about one's own data, one's own responsibilities around data, and then who in your organization is managing that data. And increasingly, when we come on to talk about, Shamoli, the skills that we need, all of us need skills around data organization and data management.
That is fantastically put. You know, what I'm going to ask next is an issue that I personally am very worried about. Technology has lower participation of women, particularly in geographies like India. What are some ground level changes that you think we can implement to improve this?
Yes, so I think that it is critical in a world that is coding at a great rate and speed with this massive vortex of change. And one of the four elements of change, I hope we'll come on to talk about the other three, are around technology. The rate and pace and scale of the changes means that no part of society can be excluded because of their social mobility, their gender, their age, their sexuality, their cognitive abilities. And I think there are some superb examples of what companies are doing. At IBM, their extraordinary Pathways to Technology program, a platform which reaches out and enables young people who are not looking to do a degree, but have some of the essential skills to learn about and service this vortex of technology change, can be fast-tracked within it. We did a huge amount to reach 4 million teachers and 1 million young women with STEM in India. And there are many organizations. In one of my own charities with the founders Mission Beyond, we have created a platform that enables those that are not socially mobile to connect with the ecosystem that will help fast track them. I think it is even more critical now than it was before. Anyone that was disadvantaged before is even more disadvantaged now. And it is critical that organizations, companies, and governments are really selecting diverse teams and being intensely inclusive about the progression and the retention of those teams, because it's because of people's age and sex and color and creed, sexuality and physical and cognitive abilities that make teams really effective. And there are a couple of data points in COVID that are devastating. 66% of everyone who died through COVID was physically or mentally disabled. What does that tell us about the need for us to be looking at very diverse and inclusive policies, practices, measurements, for us to really be held account to the changes that we need to see?
That is amazing. Truly, truly eye-opening. Harriet, I do want to ask you, leaders with a great personal brand such as yourselves have immense power to bring about a positive impact. Now, what would your advice be to upcoming leaders in this regard?
So I've written a lot for those who follow me in LinkedIn, particularly about how you develop your own personal brand. And it's about thinking very strongly about what you want to be known for. What are the areas that you'd like to focus in on and really sort of start? What is your personal philosophy? I remember once being in a meeting with Mitt Romney, who was running for president of the United States. And he said that his sort of personal philosophy that kind of captured his personal brand was always gaining market share in every interaction. Now that's a very American kind of approach, but I think that you need to start. Even the mighty Oprah took a number of turns as she developed her personal brand. For me, I believe it's about deciding what are the leadership qualities that you really stand for. And for me, it's very heart-centered leadership around truthfulness and trustworthiness, about how you model self-care, about the support that you give to others, how committed and responsible you are, how empathetic, and how you sort of strive to mentor, how you develop strategy, how approachable you are. And I build that brand, my own personal brand, around those heart-centered leadership qualities.
Fantastic, so inspiring. I know we do know that you are an inclusion activist. In today's workplaces, how can we recognize privileges and biases that we have, and how do we become more inclusive towards everyone?
Yeah, I think that the key is all of us have biases. Some of them are conscious or unconscious. Last week, I posted about the 20 unconscious bias sort of elements or themes that exist. And I talked about, I have an unconscious bias around, I love innovation programs. And when someone presents a great new idea to me, you know, I'm all in way too quickly. So I think the first thing is about really recognizing and being honest with ourselves about what those biases are, and then kind of calibrating when we're in the situations where we can see and feel that those biases are leading us to make really poor decisions. So I think it's acknowledgement, it's how we manage our reactions, it's how we compensate for those deep unconscious or conscious biases, and what we do about it in the moment.
Very well put. You know, you're the right person to ask this. What do you think you need to be and to have a successful career in leadership?
So I think, first of all, and we talked about this at the very start, I do think all leadership starts with yourself. And so how you develop your own emotional fitness as well as your physical fitness so that you are strong and able to cope with the challenges and the successes. Emotional fitness sort of incorporates self-awareness, our ability to empathize, how we develop innovation and work through play, ensuring that our curiosity, you know, really helps us have a growth mindset rather than fixed and defensive. And then how we bounce back quickly from a setback or failure, how we practice mindfulness, and also really, really strong sort of communication elements. So I think that emotional fitness is really important. And I have a couple of little tips on that. One of them is that I worry quite a lot. And so I develop a worry hour at the start of the day where I try and work on all of the things that are truly worrying me. I also have a self-esteem file where all of the positive, strong, and good things that people share with me when I've had a setback or something that doesn't work, then I can refer to that. And then around communication, I think it's very, very important that we're all helping each other. You know, some great emojis. I've got your back. This is a prickly subject. I see how hard you're working. I know you don't feel like talking yet. I know you're sort of stuck in your head about this. In the moment, you know, we can demonstrate our emotional fitness to others. It's as important as our physical fitness. And I really think that personal resilience for all of us, but particularly for female leaders, is hugely key as we sort of survive stress and we take more risk and become sort of more effective and bolder. I think we have to develop a lot of compassion around ourselves and around others. I think very important, something that I really advocate, is how we each compartmentalize our cognitive load. Apparently, we receive something like 11 million bits of information every second, but our brains can only effectively process about 40. So I've sort of started to kind of monotask, to separate time to focus on some of those elements, some of those projects, some of those work issues that need things. And I advocate to everyone, get some mindfulness training. You know, that is really, really helpful to sort of keep our minds fresh and working well.
Fantastic. I'm a huge promoter of the growth mindset, and I'm so glad you brought it up. And definitely, my favorite part would be the worrying hour and the self esteem file. That is something that I'm definitely taking away today with me. Such a fantastic idea to kind of go back to a file that kind of elevates you when you need it. So, really love that. Harriet, the world right now is obviously going through a massive change with COVID. How do you suggest one can be more successful post COVID in such times?
Yeah, so I think you're right. The world is going through a huge vortex of change, Shamoli. I mean, it's technology change that we've talked about, a health pandemic, a deep, deep need for diversity and inclusion, and of course, massive climate change, as well. And so I think as we're all sort of emerging at varying stages from this vortex of change, as a historian, I always like to look to the past. And each time there have been these vortexes of change, after the Second World War, after the Spanish pandemic, the flu in the mid-50s, recession in the 70s, when the dot-com bubble burst, what really moves individuals and companies and countries forward is innovation-led growth. Yes, everyone can take out cost and reshape the organization, but what we really need to do is innovate. In the mid-50s, after the Spanish flu pandemic, when 55 million people died, Sony brought out the most amazing, groundbreaking, not just innovation, but a whole new industry, the transistor radio. In the middle of the 70s, in that deep recession, Microsoft was born. And in the middle of the dot-com bubble that burst in 2000, Apple brought out their first iPod. So I think it's very important for teams, highly diverse and inclusive teams, to be working together to look at a whole range of things. What is the employee value proposition of the company? What is the best bet new product? What is the commitment or the promise of the company? And how do you work together in agile teams, either online or in person, to move those forward?
Fantastic. So you have highlighted that it is very important right now to go towards innovation-led growth. Do you think there are any other skills that the world does need right now that people can maybe focus on?
Oh, most definitely. I mean, if you look at the top 10 skills that the World Economic Forum have highlighted, for the world, for all of us, I think it's critical if you want to lead, that you equip yourself with the skills that the world needs, whether it's analytical thinking and innovation skills, active learning and learning strategies, learning through play as part of the growth mindset that you talked about, complex problem solving, creativity, originality, initiative, all of these things. There are many online programs, many ways that you can train yourself to start thinking. How do you, as we've already discussed, start to put yourself out there with your personal brand, leading and beginning to have social influence? How you use technology, and as we've already talked, how you learn about data organization and data management, as well as critical human and life skills, resilience, stress tolerance, flexibility, reasoning, problem solving, and of course, my absolute favorite, ideation. Have a great idea every single day.
That's lovely. You have so much clarity in the way you put across your thoughts. It's amazing. And I'm sure someone would want to know from you, how does one find their purpose or their calling? How did you find your purpose or your calling?
Yeah, I think you really have to kind of fight for this, you know, whether it's that you're wanting to change jobs, maybe just being laid off or getting some feedback from colleagues, but really sort of developing this sense of what excites you, what moves you, where you want to see change happen in the world, what you feel passionate about, what sort of makes you excited. And there are some amazing change makers in the world. I'm going to be writing on them in the next couple of weeks, but young women who've stopped the use of single-use plastics in Bali, small teams of people in the Philippines doing the same, cleaning the oceans. Any one of us who feels passionately can make change happen. In my own case, I feel very strongly that people from socially disadvantaged backgrounds in the UK cannot make the connection, make the CVs, the work during an interview. And so creating a platform called Open Doors from our charity Mission Beyond has become my passion, and now fighting to raise money so we can roll that platform out. So I think going forward, businesses will be purpose-led and innovation-led. And each of us needs to decide what our commitment and our promise is to ourselves, to our companies, to our organizations, to our families, to our children, to our governments.
I absolutely love that. Harriet, I must say, this has been such an inspiring chat. It was a pleasure hosting you today.
Oh, it's always wonderful to talk to you. Your bright, shiny face and your amazing inputs. It's just so lovely. So I appreciate your time.
Thank you.